Thanks again for staying with us on the show, TMI. Thursday, I've got Shadrach Udubai, who is a researcher and a public affairs analyst with me on the show today. Shadrach, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. My good Prophet, I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so much is happening on the political scene, particularly with the two major political parties. Yesterday, the PDP had a NEC meeting where a whole lot of stuff came forth, and then a panel has been constituted to review and look at the Edo State issue, and then also look at what is possible with the zoning arrangement. On the part of the APC, the Boni-led Kedeka committee stands. President Muhammadu Buhari apparently has given his support and backing for that committee. So let's look at all of this, because these are basically things that will shape the 2023. But let's begin with the ruling party, the APC. A whole lot, happened in the last couple of days. It was a case of to be or not to be. Boni removed, and then all of a sudden, Niger State Governor Bello came on board, and all of a sudden, Boni is back there. I don't know. Do you make sense of all of this?
The truth is that the political squabbles, the issue of leadership tussle is not relatively new to the APC. It's been a thing that has been recurring to the political party. They find it practically difficult to institute who is leader. It's always a challenge. Because the party, to a large extent, is not built around strong institutions. Permit me to say that. It's built around the character and the tesperament of President Muhammadu Buhari. He appears to be the strong man holding the whole thing together. And that's why both factions, whenever they speak, you could hear clearly. They say, as long as President Muhammadu is the leader of the party, if he says, I'm leader, I'm leader. This one comes and tells you that I have the support of President Muhammadu Buhari. There's no air of strong, the instrument of political legality, as to say that the people want me to be there. It's always an idea of President Muhammadu Buhari supporting me, where I've gone to meet with the president, he says this is possible and this. So the man appears to be the neck, not particularly a constituted body or a group of persons who are meant to be custodians of the political values and norms. But recently, what we've seen is that from February 2020, from November 2021 down to this point, APC have postponed their primaries on three different occasions. And some of them have alleged that there's an issue of the Boni-led committee not willing and ready to take the bull by the horn and bring in a new crop of leadership that will steer the party to brighter directions. And then this, to a large extent, has raised up the idea of dissenting voices across the party, who have said that this man, to a very large extent, is now seeking for personal treasures and pleasures. He's wanting to use the party to boost his own political fortune. He wanted to become a vice president and then all whatnot. And then so persons are now weary. A lot of persons who believe that the man in question does not hold their political ambition in good light, and now wanting to scheme out to see if they can bring in a new crop of leaders who will hold the convention that will bring in themselves or perhaps their perceived preferred candidate. And that has always been, that's what has led to the squabbles, the infighting. And then some persons have also alleged that there's an idea of a third force within the APC who wants to bring the party down, bring it to rumbles, and see how they can move. Because that was the magic they played in 2015 as against that of the PDP. They were able to push the party to the wall, create some form of internal implosion, and that led to a political reconfiguration where persons practically moved out of the party in the dying minute, making it practically impossible for the People's Democratic Party to stand strong in the 2015 general elections. That is also taking place. But in all, I see but President Muhammadu Buhari had also looked at the parameters on ground and said that this is Boni-led Kedeka committee at lead the stay. But yes, why don't we just stay in this vehicle as it translates in this later part, while handing us a competent and a more palatable or a pleasing or anything of sort that could give us, to enroll us to a new era of competent and stable leadership. And as such, status quo remains, and it's the best for the APC. The idea of wanting to change leadership at this, irrespective of how they perceive the Boni-led period to be, they have to just hold still and say they can manage the process, let Boni just lead. The man went abroad for health reasons. Those are legitimate reasons. Anybody can fall ill at any point in time. And to a large extent, he had communicated that some said persons should act in his stead. And then strongly, these whole things it will come to light as long as they're able to hold themselves, and Boni should just be allowed to make his last input and usher in new leadership. The unity of the party at this point in time is sacrosanct. Okay. Buhari is leaving, and if he's not able to put together a cohesive leadership while he leaves, it will be practically impossible for PDP to hold as one.
APC, you mean?
Sorry, APC to hold as one if they are not able to hold it.
There have been, concerns that the governors are actually taking charge of the party, while the impression is given that President Muhammadu Buhari is in charge of the party. But in any case, I heard someone say, I think it was on Monday on the show here, that the APC, unlike the PDP, does not have Mr. President as the leader of the party. There is a national leader of the party, well recognized. What do you make of all of these interplay of forces and powers within the party, particularly with the influence of the governors?
Even I myself are taking time to look intrinsically at the political configuration in the Nigerian democratic space. When the leader comes to the party, becomes governor, automatically becomes leader of the party. Someone who has been in the party, who was helped by the party leaders and masters, those persons who have been in power, practically help this young person, promotes him, makes him governor, and all of a sudden the person becomes the leader of the party at all levels. So there's an intertwine, there's a slight imbalance. I perceive it to be an imbalance. That's why persons become, for example, a young individual may just come up with the support of a governor, becomes a president, and all of a sudden he becomes the leader of that president. It's somewhat skewed, there's some missing rings there. So that imbalance is obvious, especially when they do not have a president in the midst of the party to serve as leader. And that president may not be perceived as a legitimate president. That happens in different states where governors rise up and become governors by virtue of being a position of being governor. They are not translated as leaders of the party. And because the persons in the party do not perceive him as the legitimate candidate, they begin to bring out some form of political fractions and wranglings. And the governors, as being concerned in Nigerian democracy, is relatively too powerful. These governors hold within them all the local governments, the control to a very large extent, the persons, all political structures within the state, and as such becomes have an overbearing influence on the national outlook of a political party. And as such, this thing gives them the idea of wanting to come to the public space and assert their power, wanting to come around and engage in some unhealthy power play. And this thing is not so clear-cut, because for parties now like the PDP, where they do not have a president as a national leader, it becomes very difficult for them to meet together and take a clear course of action as pertaining to the issues of zoning, the issue of what to do at every particular point in time, and the issue of conflict resolution is relatively difficult. It's the issue of one governor's word against another governor. And people coming to say, okay, let's just let reason hold. So the power play is not so clear cut as regards what will pan out to be. It's the idea of the strong man wins, or in international politics they say the mighty is always right. And so they try to balance themselves with their perceived interest. Because some governors now are coming out wanting to throw their hat in the race for 2023 general election, and some other governors are perceiving their ambition as inordinate, perceiving it as illegitimate, and they are looking for a middle ground, and middle ground appears to be far from what they have on ground. Yeah. So it's a challenge. If only they had a national working committee who stands as leader of the party at all levels, irrespective of who is president or is governor, I think some sense of sanity would have been brought to all of these political arrangements.
Do you think that the position taken by INEC not to recognize the Mohammed Bello's chairmanship or caretaker chairmanship position of the party may have influenced President Muhammadu Buhari to backtrack and support the Buni-led caretaker committee? Because, immediately Mohammed Bello came out to say, look, he's now the caretaker committee chairman of the APC. Some came out to say, well, this looks like a palace school of some sort, because we didn't really hear more of it. All of a sudden, someone has emerged as a caretaker committee chairman. He went to the APC's national headquarters, took charge, and the other officers stayed away and all of that. I suppose we heard that security agents were asked to take charge, to provide that security cover. So what's your take on the influence of INEC's decision not to recognize the Bello-led caretaker committee of APC?
In time past, INEC have appeared to be like more or less an arbiter in the political structure of the country. Because political parties are properties of INEC. They are all properties, PDP, APC, or whatnot. They are all properties, they are formulations, they are appendages of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Okay. And as such, they choose, the issue of legality of who becomes the national chairman or who rightfully is the national chairman is solely the opinion of INEC. If INEC say this man is not recognized, irrespective of how powerful he is or his political might and will, he is not the chairman. And as such, the idea of even wanting to toss the concept of who is the legitimate chairman or not is a delicate issue that PDP will not want to throw now at a public domain when they have a convention coming in. They are to bring in someone who is not perceived as the legitimate chairman, and he goes ahead and conducts a national convention. All of these things may just be a work in futility, effort in futility, because you cannot build something on nothing. So the idea of the INEC whispering to them that if you want to change the leadership of a party, you have to give me 21 days notice, and in that NEC meeting I have to be obviously present to witness the change of power, and then you wanted to hold a convention for a convention that has been announced by another chairman, and that chairman is coming to hold the convention. it's obvious that they are wise at this point in time, trying to retract back and say Buni is the chairman, let Buni come forward and continue the process, crowning a new leadership. Because if this issue was to be pursued to the end, it wouldn't have meant well for the APC. Imagine the APC being disqualified as it was in the state of Zamfara for all elections. Say the convention that was held is illegal, and APC is partly gone, all the party. So it's too delicate a thing to play with. So Buni is known by INEC, who is the arbiter, who comes out to speak, who is rightfully the chairman or not, should just hold still and they let the whole.
Don't you think this is some sort of intrusion on the part of INEC into an intra-party matter?
No, I've said before that parties are properties of INEC, constitutionally. Irrespective of how big and mighty. Some parties tend to be mighty and strong. I've been a party state chairman. Parties they're just, there's an offspring of INEC. INEC can retract, can unmake any political party. So some persons have said that INEC is appearing to be bigger than they ought to appear. They are playing their hands too deep into the internal affairs of political parties. But I've often said that these parties are properties of INEC. And as such, the issue of legality, that was what happened between Ahmedu Sheriff in the last PDP scope. It was INEC who said this is the legitimate chairman. Even in other political parties, when the issue of who is chairman comes up, it is INEC that stands to say this is the legitimate chairman. This is the one whom we know or who we recognize as chairman. This is the one who has the base, the backing of the law to act in the stead of the party, representing them in all capacity. So the INEC, to a large extent, I believe, is playing its role. For them to have even come out to say you cannot change leadership without prior notice is a clear sign that INEC wants to give them some reason to go back and think, some reason to solve their internal issues. Some of them may deny and argue because it's common within political parties to have dissenting opinions across board. But you know, it's a legitimate basis for them to retract their steps. INEC is doing what it needs to do for the sustenance of Nigerian democracy. And I commend them for that.
So what's your expectation on the convention? 26th is the date.
2016.
Yeah, are we hoping to see, what do you hope to see? Let me put it that way.
The truth of the matter is that for the first time in a long while, the Nigerian political space is becoming very turbulent. The persons who are big, who perceive themselves as a strong men, the leaders and masters, those who have considered themselves as principalities within the political blocks, find it very difficult to come to table now and discuss and resolve amicably. The issue of zoning has been tossed up. APC is even good for the APC, who are coming up to say, okay, Muhammadu Buhari has been whistled, rumors have come out to say that President Muhammadu Buhari believes that it's an inordinate arrangement for a northerner to succeed him. And as such, aside the exception of Bello, the governor of Kogi State, all other candidates who have been throwing in their interest for presidency have been presidents from the south. But these are opinions that do not sit well. Information have it that the caucus of the Fulani caucus, the hegemony, the northern hegemony in Aso Rock does not choose any of these northern candidates. They are looking for a pliable southerner, which they can bring forward to run and to continue from where President Muhammadu Buhari had stopped, carrying their interest at heart. But the truth is that the biggest man he raised is Tinubu in question. And it's obvious that from the disposition of the president, he had said in the last interview he had with journalists that he's keeping his interest to his heart, that he doesn't want them to kill his opponent. That was the word he used. But you know that nobody can kill Tinubu. Is too big in a race to be muzzled down. So that has given us an insight to see that President Muhammadu will likely not be backing the ambition of Tinubu. And Tinubu, to a very large extent, controls the majority of the APC votes in the south, particularly in the southwest. And the man feels disenfranchised if he gets agreed. The man to a large extent made a statement that is willing to go down dirty. Yes, he's not going to stand. Buhari had not told him he's supporting him, but he had not told him that he should not run. So the man is making big strides, giant strides, and some persons with the party are not pleased with this move. So if you go into a convention and the interest of this man is not captured, people are scared that he may pull out, and this implosion may lead to the new configuration of the Nigerian political space. It may not be what they want, but they will need to have to adapt in order to match the new emerging paradigms that is emerging in political space. It's also similar in PDP. So people are saying if you zone this party, if you zone the ticket, because preponderance of the preponderance of persons who are coming out are not earners. And people are saying it's time for the southern to leave. They are bringing all manner of political rhetorics to back their aims and ambition. And if this thing holds sweet, people are bound to leave the political party because it's common. People change their they don't political party as though they are changing clothes. Some of them sell their political destiny for a plate of jollof rice to jump from one party to another. If this thing continues like this and then persons are not willing to rein in, because this concept of looking at another man's ambition as inordinate, I want to run for president, I look at every other person as incapable and not able to bring home the dividends of democracy, and I want to say it's either me or nothing. Because even the way Atiku spoke, he said if APC, if PDP do not bring him out, they do not stand a chance of winning. So this perspective across across board.
Yeah.
So if they do not settle, they not calm down and look carefully, bringing the interest of the people to the center, they may likely have an implosion.
All right, we'll talk more in a moment, still on the same focus of our discussion, looking at some of the political developments in the build-up to the 2023 general elections. We're taking a look at two major political parties. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with you to have our second guest join us on the show. Don't go away.
TMI, every opinion counts.
For staying with us on the show. Just before we switch over to a next set of interviews, but we just want to quickly cap this up on our discussion segment. Engineer Sosa Omolgwe is a public affairs commentator, is also a politician. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Sonny, for having me. Good morning, viewers at home. Good morning, my fellow panelists.
Okay, since you're here now, we kicked off the discussion, but let me just key you into an aspect that I really want to get your views on. I mean, we saw a Niger State governor coming out to say, look, I've taken charge of the party. We didn't know how that happened. Some have described it as a coup in a sense because of the manner in which that emerged. But just before the dust generated by this latest development could settle, Buni is back in the saddle and everybody is cleaning up behind him, including President Muhammadu Buhari. What does this mean for the party? I mean, with the convention just around the corner?
Well, for the APC, the party which I belong, I believe that at the end of the day, the leadership of the party will come together and sort out whatever differences that they have in the interests of majority of the party members and the country at large. That will be my take on that. I really want to go into specifics. As per zoning, that is a region across the country, you know, both in the PDP and in the APC. I want to say this, that zoning has been accepted by Nigerians as a way of coming out of some political logjam or settling some political squabbles that may have arisen or that may hit up the polity. I'll cite, before I cite some instance, I want to lay a foundation on what zoning is like in Nigeria. Zoning, as it is practiced in Nigeria today, is a concept of ceding political positions, or position as the case may be, to a particular or specific section of the country. In Nigeria today, the political delineation as per zoning, in terms of zoning, is the north and south. And then if you break it down, you have the northeast, the northwest, the north central. You have the southeast, the southwest, and then the south-south. So this is the political delineation in terms of zoning that we have in Nigeria today. Although it is not constitutionally recognized, but the political class have come to accept it as a way of settling some political logjam, like I earlier said. For instance, when MKO Abiola was perceived to have won the June 12 presidential election conducted in 1993, you know, that election was annoyed by the gap-toothed Mina-based general, in terms of called the person of Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. The Southwest as a region was agitated. NADECO was formed. They were calling for secession. They wanted the restoration of Abiola's mandate. At the end of the day, the political actors of that era deemed it fit that the feelings of these people needed to be assuaged. And they came together, and all the political parties that were on board as at that time zoned their presidential tickets to the Southwest. And two presidential candidates emerged from the, what were the political parties then?
SDP and the NRC.
Exactly. Now, Olufalaye and then President Olusegun Obasanjo. However the coin was going to fall, it was going to be a win-win for the Southwest eventually. And Olusegun Obasanjo came on board, and the Southwest saw that, felt that they've been reintegrated into the national political grid. Then, at a time, the South-South, what we call the Niger Delta, where the people of the South-South were agitated, and the political actors of that era deemed it fit to also assuage their feelings. And they now zoned the vice president, the ruling political party now, which was the PDP then, zoned a part of the presidential ticket, which is the vice presidential ticket, to the South-South. And Olusegun Obasanjo said then that he was looking at an Ijaw man specifically, because those were the people that were more paying their land, although it's the whole of the Niger Delta region anyway, lands being degraded, crops were not growing, the ecology and economy of the region was so bad. And former President Goodluck Jonathan was brought in to partner with then President Yar'Adua. So that I will not belabor this issue. Let me quickly say this, that at times zoning is for national interests, and at times it is for specific interests. Though at times the national interest might become sectional or personal interest. But in any case, zoning has come to stay in our political system.
In that wise, what is the consideration for zoning now? Yes, I mean, that seems to be a very topical issue for political parties.
Exactly.
Yes, particularly as it relates to the presidential election.
Well, like I said, at times it can be for national interest, and it can be
I'm talking about 2023 specifically.
That's what I'm going
for
to.
national interest.
That's what I'm going to. That's what I'm going to. It can be for national interest, it can be for sectional interest, and it can be for selfish interest. With all due respect, like I said, I'm a card-carrying member of the APC. I believe that the election that brought in Muhammadu Buhari was very selfish, and narrow interest. There was a permutation of, let's get somebody from the north and then somebody from the southwest, and they will be able to rule over the whole country, despite the feelings of some certain persons. So I don't believe that they looked at the overall interest of the nation. And I believe that is what is playing out once again in ahead of the 2023 election. For instance, the PDP as of today, they've not even been able to tell whether they are going to zone, simply because some persons are adamant, especially from the northern part of the country. They are adamant and agitating that they must be the presidential candidate in PDP, knowing that President Muhammadu Buhari is from the north. Now, why in APC, although it has not been specifically spelled out, but feelers reaching us is that the presidential ticket might be zoned to the southwest. I have my reservation about that.
Why do you have reservation about that?
Because my reservation about that, let me say this, to an extent, I don't totally believe in zoning. The American democracy that we are copying, for instance, they don't zone. Now, if you zone at times, not all the times, there is something that is lost.
If you say they don't zone, for example, in America, you have the Democrats in the saddle now. Maybe after 8 years, you're going to have the Republicans. Isn't that some sort of zoning?
No. It's a choice. The Republicans are seen to be conservative, while the Democrats
are progressive.
Yes, are seen to be progressive and liberal. So at times, America will say, no, let's not just have a continuation of conservatism. Let's have a measure, okay, after this era of conservatism, let's have a measure of liberalism. So I believe that is the thinking of the American. But then, let me quickly go back to the American system. For instance, if American system were practicing zoning, and that's where we are copying, maybe Barack Obama wouldn't have become the president, and history would have been tinted in a way or stained in a way, because maybe that's why Barack Obama became president. No. I said maybe that's why Barack Obama became president. That's the first
black president.
Yeah.
That could have been the result of zoning in a sense.
No, he contested with 2 white men. First was Mitt Romney. The second time was John McCain. You know, so it wasn't, and even in their primaries, he contested with Hillary Clinton. So it wasn't about zoning at all.
Let me get your perspective.
Personally, I think I need to first clearly establish the idea and conception of zoning. Zoning or rotation as a principle of power sharing may not be enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, but I've often said that it's a clear derivative of the principle of federal character, which is enshrined in the Constitution, Section 14, Section 147, and Section 171 of the Nigerian Constitution. It's clearly spelled out. What both of them seek to achieve is clear, and they seek to achieve a scenario where there are no one political, one religious or ethnic group will have undue or uncontrolled access to power and empowerment by ensuring that we have some form of representative government across. Zoning or rotation as a principle of power sharing may not be what we have copied from the Western democracy, which they practice there is liberal democracy. Zoning is more or less like a Nigerian contraption, a strategy to address the multi-ethnic and multi-religious demographics of the Nigerian state. That's exactly what it is. And it is fine, because at the foundation of the Nigerian democracy in the world is fairness, equity, and some form of social political justice. And for power, for everybody to have a sense of collective participation, for there to be even development, power must rotate. And that's why zoning is a logical and a sensible position for everybody who wants fairness to all. There have been some issues across. I myself, before going forward, I want to clearly state that I believe so strongly in zoning at all levels. At all levels. And I can tell you clearly without missing words, quote me anyway, that it is zoning before competence. I repeat, zoning before competence. For simple reasons. First of all, there is no zone that has monopoly to intellectual capacity. Every zone can bring out persons who have the requisite capacity to lead. You know, there are numerous factors one begin to consider who is to be president. There's the factor of who is eligible. Constitution spells it out that lots of persons are eligible to become president. But the question becomes, who has the requisite intellectual capacity to bring home the dividends of democracy when given the opportunity to become president? That one is different. Then there's another factor they call the winnability factor. Those guys have the political muscle, the clout, and the strength to go into the election and secure victory. That is another factor. But the truth is that if we're able to zone, the winnability factor is downplayed, because the whole political structure now gives their mandate to person who is perceived to be competent. So winnability factor no longer becomes first, it becomes second. Competence and character is now eroded to the fore. So that one there. There's another issue of zoning I want to, the concept of maybe the issue, the argument that they are bringing out now within the PDP is irritating. I see it as a specious, a whole argument, saying that since the return of democracy in 1999, PDP had 16 years of rule. Inside that 16 years, 14 years have been from the south, and only 2 years have been to the north. The question is that leaders that come out of PDP, do they lead PDP or they lead Nigeria? Are you supposed to look? Nigeria did not start in 1999. If you want to go back to antecedent, Nigeria started in 1960. And for the 61 years of the existence of Nigeria, Northerners have had 41. So if they are talking about history and antecedent, then they owe us. But the challenge is this. When democracy has been formed, still lies at the foundation, there's what we call equity and some perceived. If a man who is intellectually, let's assume without conceding that they have the intellectual capacity to offer. If a man having the intellectual capacity to lead comes in power, and some section, some region, some group of people believes that this candidacy is illegitimate, this man stole our rights, that alone, because it is enough to cripple the mass government or not bring out the best of his government. Because democracy is people-focused, people-centered, people-driven, and people-oriented. So you cannot lead the people if they do not perceive you as a legitimate leader. So that's what people said. That does not mean that when they say they have zoned it to the north, people in the south, that's a mistake the PDP made. When they had zoned it in 2019 to the north, persons from the south contest, all the aspirants who threw their heart in the race were all northern candidates. And that now sent a message of weakness about the perceptions of politicians who are coming from the south, who wanted to run. So as they are coming in now in 2023, they are cited as a fledglings or lightweight or paperweight politicians, not having indicated their interest before. What I advocate is that whenever you have an interest, you throw it up. Whether it's your region or not your region, you make it known that you have an interest to run for central office, you begin to mobilize and engage. When the party comes to see that this is the zone it's going to, you withdraw your interest and you lie low, hoping that when it comes to your zone, you have registered already that you have an interest to run.
But they say zoning breeds mediocrity. I mean,
no,
some people use what is happening in the country, for example, as a case study.
That's why I told you that there are factors for selecting candidates. And in that factor, when you do not zone, winnability is first. They say, let us bring somebody that can win.
Yeah.
But the concept is that there's nobody that cannot win if the person is seen to have the requisite competence and character. So if you zone,
But there are people that can't win.
that can't win.
Yes, there are people that can't win election.
In what sense that
There are people that can't win.
If PDP brings, if PDP, for example, now if I tell you I'm a member of PDP, what will you now tell me that make me vote for Atiku? If I tell you I'm in APC, what will you tell me that make me vote for Tinubu? I'm not trying to say these places are not good, but with the political arrangement, even in Satana, lots of places have reservation towards them. There are people who will zone into their zone and they'll see not one.
When people say we should have a clear-cut departure from the past in 2023, what's your understanding of that?
A clear-cut departure from the past. I strongly believe that we have to begin to put the interests of the people over and above the interests of politicians. Because these politicians, see, the failure of zoning is not an issue of the concept in particular. It's the failure of the Nigerian political class, the Nigerian political elite, not being able to practice the pristine values of Nigerian democracy, of the pristine value of democracy itself. They find it very difficult to work together. If they must work together, one must tend to be above or over the other. Working together in partnership or in agreement is difficult for them. The logic, all they need to do is, so that's why I can count very clearly over 2 decades of democracy in the state. I can count to my fingers governors that have had cordial and harmonious relationship with their predecessors. It's an issue of betrayal, serial betrayal, man climb man, man eats man. We try to outplay each other, smart each other. The logic, that's the design of their political logic, their economy and their history. They want to outsmart everybody. So when I want to run, what is expected that I see every other ambition as inordinate and illegitimate. Mine must fly. So I look for every logical reason to say that do not zone if it doesn't flow. Article was running. Funny enough, I'm even more disposed to the article that was running before now. He said when he was 60-something years running in 2011, he said all those old men above 70 should go and rest. They should give power to the young persons. You give power to the young persons. That we are the young persons. Those of us that are not going to 70, that was what he said. Now he's above 70. He's not singing that song anymore. He's singing a new song. That's the 70 interest that talked about. Every time. So the truth is that if we say zoning, because there's some persons who are now had this their lifelong ambition. I must be president no matter what. Irrespective whether I have the intellectual capacity, whether I have the age by my side, or have anything, I must be president. And that thing is not healthy for democracy. We will zone other positions that we don't have interest in. But the one that we have interest in, we'll begin to cast aspersions and begin to see how we can shape. See, there is nothing like equity and justice, fairness and social-political, any form of legal, in any sense of legitimacy that zoning brings that people cannot understand.
All right, so Engineer Susan, yeah. You want to be on that?
Yeah, let me agree with him on some points. That for equity and fairness, zoning is expedient. And that is simply because we are not yet Nigerians. We still see ourselves first as an Hausa man, a Yoruba man, an Igbo man, and a Do man, before we see ourselves as Nigerians. I think that is the bane of the Nigeria society and system today. Now, in American democracy, I keep referring to that, it doesn't matter where you come from. So long as you have the intellectual capacity and the ability to lead, and you have that core American value, at the end of the day, they will vote for you or elect you. But in Nigeria, it is, let me serve the interest of my people. My person is there, therefore I have to get this. My person is the minister of this, therefore I have to get this. That is the problem we are having in Nigeria today. And that is why this zoning is eating up the polity. But to be fair, I believe that after the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari, power should naturally shift to the south. Like he rightly said, there is no section of this country that does not have the capacity, or somebody that have the capacity to lead. We all have the capacity to lead, be it from any region at all. You know, there are people that are competent, qualified to lead this country. But at the end of the day, my appeal will be that let us look at the national interest. Let us look at the person that is able to deliver, the person that will bring Nigerians together, the person that will be able to speak to the need of Nigerians. As of today, Nigeria is not at its best. Whether you want to look at it politically, whether you want to look at it economically, however you want to look at it, Nigeria is not at its best. Do we have the person that can solve this problem? Yes, we do. But let us not use zoning to scheme such people out.
Okay, let's just update you with what is new on the political scene, particularly from the two major political parties. You can see that there is on this day, actually, PDP next sets up 37-man committee over presidential ticket, gives mandate to report back in 2 weeks. Party's convention proposed for May 28, 29. Sale of forms commences 17th March today. Presidential form to cost 35 million naira. And Tabuwa meets 37 PDP state chairs over ambition. I'm sure if you click on this story, you have a lot more to pull out from it, arising from what transpired yesterday. But the major issue is on the APC. In letter to Bagudu, Buhari directs return to status quo ante in the APC. And as a follow-up, he says, I hold no grudge against anyone, declares Yobe governor. That's talking about May Mara Buni, who is the caretaker committee chair. In fact, when I looked at the name given to this man, CEC, it almost looked like China Electric Construction Company, as it were. It almost looked that way. But it's actually the chairman, extraordinary caretaker, okay, I've forgotten the P now, but I have C at the end of it. Planning committee. Okay, now, thank you. So you have chairman, extraordinary caretaker planning committee. I've never heard that before.
It's a contraction.
This is the man who is in that saddle. That's the man. That's the man. I'm sure you see that shortly. That's the man, May Malaboni, who is the Yobe State Governor, at the same time, the chairman, extraordinary caretaker committee, planning committee of the APC. There are some legal perspectives on that. We're hoping that in the days to come, that will be sorted out. Then we have that the CECPC Council's NEC meeting, which was scheduled for today, apparently concerned that if the NEC meeting is convened today, the governors may do something that may scuttle the whole process. But we also have, I think there was a case that was instituted in the court over this. That case has not been decided. It hasn't. It's still pending.
There are lots of issues in the APC today at the national level, and I can say that all is not well. And it is about power struggle, and it is about 2023 in view. So that is the situation in APC right now. There are court cases here and there. I still maintain that I will not want to comment too much on that issue, because I believe that the process will naturally sort itself out. So whether in courts, whether by consensus, whatever arrangement it is, I believe the APC has the internal mechanism to legally or otherwise resolve the issues.
Okay, so what are the, because many of the top contenders that we have seen in the build up to 2023 are those people that we have seen over and over again, either as vice president, either as senators, either as former Senate president, either as state governors, and what have you. So the power shift that we've always talked about, when will it take place? Power shift to, I mean, what's wrong with having a woman as president of Nigeria? What's wrong with that?
Yeah. The truth is that there is likely going to be an implosion, a political implosion. I disagree with my brother when he says that there is going to be a more likely process will shape itself. That was how the process shaped itself in 2015, and we had a new party called the APC. The process will shape itself again, because there are persons within the PDP, like Kwankwaso, who is telling them that, you see that his body language indicating that he himself is no longer at home with the party.
Yeah, someone just wrote an editorial, still on the these days, he's asking a question. APC, a journey to implosion or growth?
That's the challenge. It's clear.
Yeah.
When you watch the parameters, for the fact that it is only one man who understands, who is holding the party together, and the amount of elders, there is not a man who talks. His body language is not so clear. We have to push the matter to the wall before Buhari writes one letter. We have to get to a place of go to a breaking point before the man begins to speak. And there are lots of persons around him who wants to speak with the man's voice. So all of these challenges is clear. And since his man's tenure is coming to an end in no distant time, you can see that other persons are now becoming stronger, wanting to
take themselves out of the man's shadow. Because see what happened in the Senate when he said they should address the clause 84 that spoke about not aligned. The unanimous no that was shouted shows to us that the Senate members are now trying to assert some form of independence, trying to push the executive arm of government back to the fringes, and not allowing their cronies in government to partake in the elections that will become coming that will decide whether they are to return or not. So we see all of this arrangement, and as the 2023 draws closer, we're going to be seeing on this form of political assertion. Persons within the APC and the PD will try to come out and speak for themselves. Now they are still trying to be loyal, still shouting as long as Barry say I'm the one, as long as the president supports me, as long as the president. Very soon they will tell the president face to face that Mr. Man, you have enslaved your own, and now it's our own. This is our stand. This is what we want. We have our block. We need to see blocks being announced because of the guy's political style. Barry does not manage any form of political rivalry. He smashes them to the wall. He hits them hard, hammers them with EFCC, breaks, cripples them without missing words. So because that's time, people are pleading their time to announce their position. In no distant time, people will come out and tell them that this is what we are doing. And something similar will also take place in PDP.
If it's similar too?
Well, I don't believe there will be an implosion. Like I rightly said, I believe the APC has an internal mechanism to resolve their differences.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
However, whether there is an implosion or not, things will naturally settle.
Sort itself out.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll keep our fingers crossed and see how all of that works out in the build up to 2023. It's still TMI Thursday. We'll take a short break and then we'll be back with more interviews just before we call it a wrap on the show. Don't go away.